We are live from Sacramento, California, though I'm flying out to Los Angeles tomorrow. But because I'm going to be up in the air on the airplane during the normal 1 p.m. Tuesday hangout, I figured we'll move it to Monday once again. Last time we actually had a bigger crowd, and yet everybody said, but let's keep it for Tuesdays. But this time I had to make another exception. Good to see everybody in the chat room. Let me know where you're watching me from and what kind of electric car you're driving right now. I already see some regulars in the chat room: Xpunk, Fangirl, Brian Reynolds, and a few others. I also have a buddy of mine, Hudson, who's going to join us with a very interesting perspective. But we are also talking about Drive Electric Week. It's always weird time because I don't know if it's always like well organized, but I love those events. I'm gonna try to go to one this coming Saturday. Let me know if you're actually going because it's a good chance to meet like-minded people who also like passionate about electric cars, but also a lot of people who don't have electric cars and want to know more show up to kind of like learn more without having to go to a dealership and somebody trying to sell you stuff. So this is a great way for people who are into electric cars and people who kind of want to be into electric cars to mingle, and it's always good time. I'm probably going to go to the one that's in Davis. I think that's the closest one to me because I'm still in Sacramento, but I'm definitely very, very much excited about that. So we're going to talk about that. I'll answer some questions. I'll probably try to keep this to about an hour today. I know we usually go more, but I have so many things to do, including packing before I head out to Los Angeles tomorrow. So let's get going right now. Welcome to E4 Electric. Don't forget to click on that subscribe button. Boom. If you haven't already, and if you have, thank you. And don't forget to also like this video. I think it does better when you click on the like, but just to see how many we can get. I already got one dislike before the stream even started. So yeah, I got some. I love my haters. All right, so for me, like I said, Drive Electric Week has always been um, good times, but I'm always like trying to figure out, well, where should I go? Where is going to be the best one? And should I bring my car? Should I not bring my car? So I can definitely tell you the organization of the events could be better, but once you're there, it's really, really cool. So I recommend you guys check out. I think Plug in America on their website has the listing, but if you just Google Drive Electric, I think they have like their own website, and you can definitely figure out. Now there are virtual events and there are in-person events also. I love the in-person events. I'm also vaccinated, so I don't know if that's a requirement on some of them or not. But I actually went to a couple of places in Oakland over the weekend that I go to normally, and they started checking the vaccination cards. This is the first time, so that was interesting. And I didn't see any sort of that there were less people because of that inside of the places. So, but that's Oakland for you. All right. Cherie, who is a premium member, says we are in Los Angeles. Let me switch to the chat room right here. Vero Beach, Florida. Tommy, Tampa Bay with Audi e-tron Prestige package. Lots of e-tron owners lately. Let's see. Are you guys taking jabs at each other? What's going on? Is there already inner fighting in my chat room? Come on. We're just starting. Let's leave it for the second part of the show. Have you got feedback from the iX? Daniel, I didn't go to the iX thing that they got. They had the iX NI4 drive in Munich. I wasn't invited. Not cool enough, I guess. But Tom Maloney, he did go, but I think they're still under embargo, which means you can't talk about it until a certain deadline. That's pretty common. So I know Tom's opinion personally, but obviously I can't share it. So I decided not to go to one here in San Francisco because they weren't going to let us drive the cars. So, and I'm just not that excited. I think that they really missed the mark with the look. I hope they do well, but that car is just not. I'm just not as excited about it, and I think BMW is still in a bit of a doghouse for me. Hello from Zurich, says Real Rusty Tesla vlog. I love the fact that people are watching from all over the place. I really appreciate Arizona, Brian Reynolds. Um, San Dimas. Why do I read names that I don't know how to pronounce? I don't know. Let's see. Chevy Volt owner right here. I love my Volt. As a matter of fact, I'm just about to make a video about Chevy Bolt and how poorly GM has handled everything to the point that this can really damage their brand moving forward. So kind of had to carefully craft that video, and I'm going to show some of the footage that I don't think I've showed before about like Super Cruise trying to ram me into other cars and stuff like that. It's just not good, Chevy and GM. All right, so let me take a couple more questions, and then I'll bring Hudson in for a second. But I also see a lot of regulars, and it's always great to see you guys. This is my favorite part of the week, by the way, hanging out with you guys, talking about electric cars, getting some other opinions, and getting some people join me here live. Again, don't forget to click on that like button. Again, I don't know what it does. You can click on dislike button too. I'm sure it's like the same to YouTube. It's just called engagement. By the way, the reason I'm going to be in Los Angeles, I'm actually attending this YouTube conference where like a bunch of YouTubers, some are full-time YouTubers like me, and some are people who are just starting out. Just gather, and I mean, they're obviously, it's a conference, so there are classes and presentations, and I think Mr. Beast is the keynote speaker. Like a lot of different YouTubers are there that are pretty big, but also people who just starting. Always a great time. I've missed seeing a lot of these people because we didn't have anything going on yesterday, so it's going to be a good time. But I'm going to just go in tomorrow morning and come back at the end of the conference on Thursday night to make the Sunday video for you. And my Thursday video this time is going to be, most likely, if I tape it and my editor gets done editing it, I will post that one on Thursday. I think the title is going to be, "Can Chevy Bolt single-handedly kill GM?" Something like that. Let's see. All right. Well, you know what? I can see Hudson is already ready to go. So he is a very cool guy. I met him on Instagram. He has a huge following on Instagram. It is about like 100 and over 100,000. His handle there is Tech Balloon, and he's the youngest influencer I know. I think he's like 19 or whatever. He'll tell us in a second. But he is a very precious resource, I feel like, because he's into tech, he's into cars, obviously, but his generation essentially is going to dictate in another 10 years what's going to happen, well, with everything really, but obviously with technology and cars. And when I see his posts on social media, on his Instagram account, I always feel like, all right, well, this is a very interesting point of view because it's not the same as mine, right? It's a very interesting bit different. And of course, I'm going to find out if he is actually going to one of the Drive Electric events near him. Now, before that, there's a super chat, so I'll take that really quick from a Master Mason 32. I've seen it here before. Thank you so much for participating. Thank you for $5. As you guys know, it will go to my daily Chipotle meal. Last time I told you I was pretty excited about the Chipotle's new smoked brisket, and I tried it that day, and I thought it was all right. I don't know. I'll probably try it. I'll probably try it one more time, but I'm gonna go back to chicken. All right. So he says, or she, I think the favorite part of your videos is the mean comment of the week. Love those. Yeah, I have a grumpy comment of the week. I just thought it would be cool to kind of highlight a hater comment, right? Somebody who, there's some insults and they're not fun. I mean, they're not funny. But there are some people who post like some not hateful or grumpy comments, and I think I find them funny, and then I try to have a little comeback, and usually it's fun. So though it's kind of making me concerned that if it's the best part of my content, then maybe I should step my game up on electric car news as well. But anyway, thank you for the super chat, and Hudson is ready to go, so I'm gonna bring him in, and we're gonna talk about his perspective, and of course the Drive Electric week. Hudson, how are you, my friend? And where are you?
Doing well. I am in Dallas, Texas. I saw someone in the chat say they were from there as well, so welcome.
Yes. All right. Well, so first of all, tell us a little bit about your Instagram account. Because first of all, how old are you? Tell everybody how old you are.
Right, I'm 18 going on 19, and my Instagram account I started about 4 years ago back in high school. I just had a passion for technology, and I wanted to share that. Until now, I actually haven't heard the perspective that it sounds different from people that are a little bit older than me, but it totally makes sense. And a lot of the people that are following me are a little bit younger, so my posts tend to gravitate towards that. And that's what I'm all about, just sharing the latest technology and what's exciting. And that's what I enjoy doing.
I enjoy your feed, man. And so by the way, what generation are you? I know there's millennials and Generation Z. Do you know what generation you're part of? I lost track.
I've tried to figure it out, and I've forgotten every time. I can't remember.
All right. We'll figure that out. Okay. Well, first of all, you're not an electric car enthusiast per se. You're just into technology, and if it's moving its way into automobiles, you're good with that. Correct?
Yeah, I mean, if I could buy a car for $100,000, it would be a BMW M4. But I think what's really interesting about electric cars coming out is previously you just had car enthusiasts that were into cars, and now you have a lot of people that enjoy technology that are into cars, and the brand new technologies that have been added because of the electric vehicle movement have really introduced a whole new section of people into electric cars, and it's really exciting.
Yeah, and let's see. We already got a comment. The Cisco kid says, "Hudson, good on you." And by the way, you know what? Let's just put in your Instagram.com tech, two L's and two O's, right? For Tech Balloon, right?
Yeah. Yep.
Okay, all right. Want to make sure I don't misspell it. If I do, you guys will figure it out. But all right. So Drive Electric Week, is this something that you're interested in going? By the way, and I'm sure there's an event somewhere in Houston.
Oh, I'm sure there's an event somewhere in Texas, so I don't doubt I'll be going somewhere this week. I've already seen a bunch of stuff downtown happening at all the venues, so I'll be going to something. We'll see who I'm going with. A fellow tech enthusiast, probably. I have a friend here who works with me at Tech Balloon, and he's not even into cars, but electric vehicles I know are an interest of his, and it's really interesting because, like I said, people that aren't specifically interested in cars are now going to car shows, just for the fact that there are electric cars there. There's cool technology there, and it's exciting to see.
Well, and that's what I wanted to talk to you about. You're looking at the world through a very different perspective, a perspective that's essentially, your generation is going to take over the world in another 10, 20, years, if we're alive, obviously. But, how are you looking at this, electric car revolution? Is this something that, just the next, like we had regular TVs and then we had HD and then we have 4K. Is that just kind of a natural step, from your perspective? Or do you feel like this is like a huge change in guard and a huge kind of technological revolution in the automotive industry?
Well, the way I look at it is it's a huge change, not because it will change how we get from point A to point B, but the ways, like kind of the behind the scenes of that. We're going to be using electricity instead of gas, and nowadays we'll be able to do so much more. Like I know I was talking to you the other day about Rivian being able to use four motors. We're talking about that you can't really compare a Ford truck with all-wheel drive to a Rivian truck with four motors. And I think it's just making huge changes because you're seeing all these innovations that you couldn't see before, that are enabled because of electric power and electric motors, because you can't fit an engine on each wheel for a gas car. And that's something you can certainly do for an electric car.
Yeah, we did have a conversation, which kind of stumped me for a second because when I saw you comparing Rivian to another Ford truck, I assumed you were comparing to the Lightning because I emailed just like, hey, that's not the right specifications for the Lightning. You're like, no, I'm comparing to a gas Ford truck, which was a Raptor, right? And it was interesting how I was a little stumped in terms of how do you compare a typical ICE car to an electric car, and like for example, right? We talked about how mileage is a very different animal when it comes to electric because you only need enough miles for one day. Where for the gas car, you need enough miles, hopefully, for an entire week, because people don't like going to gas stations more than once. Um, did you find that pretty challenging to kind of compare those? And is it even possible?
Well, I think it's certainly possible, but it's a lot bigger of a challenge than comparing electric to electric or gas to gas. You're just not comparing apples to apples. And it's a totally different game, even though the same group of people are buying the two. You have to look at it in a very different way, especially when conventional knowledge, like looking at range, is something that with a gas car, you're going 60 miles per hour, you're going more efficient than you are at 20. But for an electric car, it's just not the same thing. And it's an interesting way to look at it because cold affects range on electric vehicles and it doesn't on gas vehicles. And in a lot of scenarios, not all range is created equal because of the power on the car, how much they're using, and all these new technologies. It's not just like a gas-powered engine creating a miles per gallon. It's like maybe using 4 motors, and then that's different than gas. So it's really unique to see different technologies that will change the way we drive.
I like what you just said. What did you say? No range is created equal.
Yeah.
I'm gonna totally use it and steal it from you if you don't mind, because that is actually, because I get so many, like, I moderate a bunch of EV owner groups, and everybody says, well, what range are you getting? And I'm like, don't ask this question, because you could, you're in different weather, you drive differently, you have different combinations of uphill, and you know what I mean. That's just such a moot point. And yeah, not all ranges are created equal. I like that. I really like that. All right, I know there's a super chat, and I'll get back to that from Cherie. Once we're done with this conversation. But I also thought there was interesting comment that I saw earlier about somebody going to. There's a guest. Oh, here it is. I found it. So it says from R.A. Moneygold, very Las Vegas handle. I also partially live in Las Vegas, so it's a very Las Vegas type of handle. Okay, it says my local gas station is celebrating EV Day by giving out free scented trees with every $10 of gas. That's an inch. I'm wondering if they're really just trying to celebrate it or just being kind of dicks about it. And the gas station that I went to another day because I needed a quick car wash had, and I posted that on Instagram, had an actual charging station. This was a Shell, yeah, it was Shell gas station. Which I'm not really sure. What do you think? Is this the right place to put charging stations? The gas stations.
Well, it's an interesting thing because we have this existing infrastructure all throughout the US. You can take a road trip wherever. But nowadays, it's like there's separate Tesla charging stations from actual gas stations, and they have their own kind of food thing, and gas stations have their own kind of food thing. So, in an ideal world, we could bring those together and say, let's just make the gas station half electric, half gas once it gets to that point. But in reality, I think there's going to be a whole new infrastructure. And with higher charging times, like you can just put gas in your car for 5 minutes, but electricity takes, 30 minutes to put in your car so you can get to the next station. We're going to see a lot different type of rest stop than just a gas station because they just sell snacks. But potentially what we've seen Tesla doing is having a lounge or something like that, or a place you can actually hang out where your car charges because it does take longer.
But here's what I think about that, though. I mean, you're right. Like right now, that's totally true. But at some point, the charging it just has to take faster than 30 minutes, right? It has to get under 10 minutes where you won't need a restaurant next door because you don't have, you're just going to pee, grab a sandwich, wash your windshield, and off you go. Much like with gas stations, right? So I think just building all those lounges may just be, a moot point in a few years. And you're right. I guess they'll have to pick and choose which gas stations will stay and which gas stations will just have to go belly up because most of the fast charging stations would need to be alongside of the most common traveled roads, and we don't need 10 of them within a block, right?
And a lot of them have been doing the same thing for years. So the interesting question also is the infrastructure going to evolve with electric cars? Because we have electric cars evolving at a pace that's never been seen before, like gas cars. So gas station owners that have been doing the same thing for, let's say, 20, 30, 40 years. And I just saw your comment, gas cars aren't going away anytime soon. I would agree with that, but I think adding electric options here will be something that may be difficult to keep up with for certain gas station owners, and creating the infrastructure as the technology evolves, because the technology is going very, very fast. And I think that creating a system that will keep up with that is challenging, especially for people that don't make a ton of improvements, like at a gas station or something.
That's a very interesting comment, actually. On one hand, this person is right. Streak nine. They're going to be going away. Even when the gas cars new sales will be prohibited, there will be tons and tons of used gas cars for 10, 20 years, right? And I don't mean like people to collect them like they do now with whatever, like older classic cars. I mean, it will be still the choice for people's transportation because they'll probably and most likely going to be very, 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 very cheap, and the gas will be also pretty cheap. But and then some person says, if ever, and that made me a little that made me think, because I mean, in my lifetime, I expected another 20 years that gas cars are going to be like horses or classic cars. What do you think? I mean, what would be the cutoff date to make the gas cars sort of a more of an exotic thing?
So I think first off, cars are going to be quite exotic. Let's say 20, 30, 40 years from now, it's going to be sort of thing where it's like you want to hear it, you want to do a muscle car on a track or something like that, hear the sound. But I also think somebody just commented colder climates just aren't EV friendly. And I understand technology is going to change, but I think to some extent people will still go in environments, let's say it's really far out or they're off-roading, that a gas car will be useful. I think companies will still create it for that purpose. I don't think we'll see gas cars in the same way we do today. We could see a couple, depending on the type of technology that comes out, but I think gas cars will still be used 20, 30, 40 years from now and made brand new, but not for the same purposes we have today, like a Nissan Altima or something like that. A very basic car. I don't think we're going to see it in that same way. I think that's going to become electric.
Yeah, and I would rephrase that comment though. The colder climates just aren't EV friendly. It's the current lithium-ion batteries that are not EV friendly. I mean that not cold climate friendly. The cars are fine. So once we figure out, or someone will have to figure out, like solid state batteries that really don't care if it's hot or cold. Really, not at least not as much. All of a sudden, that won't be a problem. And you know you get a car with 500 miles range that translates to 300-mile range in the coldest of the weathers, and then you have a very, very colder climate friendly EV. It's just a matter of time. But to the point that you said, you kind of right. I literally just did a speech for board members of this bank, where I was telling them what the future is going to be, and essentially private cars are probably going to be going away. It's all going to come down to self-driving pods that will be driverless and will essentially be Uber and Lyft type of ride-sharing services. Um, I think this is what your generation will get to know as the way of transportation, right?
Yeah, I think we will get to see a lot more of this stuff, especially when I've seen all these startups doing, you don't have a driver in there and it's a vehicle. I just saw one the other day. It was just a vehicle that was totally created brand new for self-driving taxi service. It's not like the outfit of Chrysler Pacific or anything, because that's meant for someone to drive. And a lot of these new vehicles are just meant for four people to sit in there. I think it'll become a lot more cost effective 10, 20 years from now, when people can just, like on my college campus, I can just call a ride, right? And it'll come and it won't cost as much as an Uber. I think that's what will drive the change if the cost actually gets down a little bit. But I don't know if private cars will go away entirely, because I know a lot of people do like the idea that they have their own private space. They get to keep it clean or dirty if they want. And
Yeah.
that may come in the form of self-driving cars, maybe with the option of driving, or it might be outlawed entirely. I don't know, but I think the main idea here is that a lot more self-driving ride sharing will happen, because it seems like it will become more cheap to actually take that than an Uber.
Here's an interesting comment. Hold on a second, I just lost it. Oh, here it is. It says self-driving Uber pods. Isn't that Tesla's idea? It must be nice to be in a Tesla bubble. No, it's not Tesla's idea. It's actually something that I've been seeing at car shows ever since I started being an electric car journalist. What, 5 years ago? Actually, my channel is just about to turn 5. Those kids grow up so fast, but it's been around. I've seen these spots from the very beginning. Tesla jumped on that bandwagon just because they feel that they felt that they have the technology to make it happen. We still don't know if that will actually happen because Waymo does have self-driving vans driving around in one or two cities right now without drivers. So technically, they're a little bit ahead of Tesla there. But yeah, no, this is almost nothing is a new idea anymore. It's just a combination of previous ideas with the right time. Um, all right, let's pick another one. And oh, here's an actually. This is a super chat. First of all, I think it's 10 pounds. Oh, 10 euros. 10 euros from Henrik. Thank you so much, first of all, for supporting the channel and paying for my entire Chipotle meal. I think it translates into $11, $12. He says, in Norway, it is quite common to have gas stations that also have large EV charging stations. I've heard of that, and it's very interesting. But at some point, I feel like we don't need that many charging stations, because charging stations, that are out and about is really mainly for fast charging when you're driving long distance. You should really charge at home most of the time.
And it'll be really interesting to see how different countries handle this, because this is a brand new technology, it needs brand new regulation, incentives, stuff like that. So to see a brand new system in every country, like Norway will have their certain system to create EV charging stations, and some people, well, depending on how many people have their chargers at home, are able to access that easily. That won't be as prevalent in some other countries.
Yeah, you're making a great point, because different countries handle this whole thing differently. I mean, look at Norway. The colder climate country, can't get colder than that in Europe, really. And their sales in August were 70% all electric, not just electric, but I mean 70%. And I think they passed the law. There's already a bill there to ban all gas car sales by 2025, which is in 4 years, because really that's what's probably going to happen anyway. So you're right, it's being handled very differently. Let's see. So thank you for super chat and essentially a Chipotle meal. There's a follow up here. Man, the thing is scrolling so fast. And okay,
And
here it
Alex,
is.
I also saw another interesting comment. He was sharing in the comments that she has a disabled child, and how self-driving will change that for her. And that's an interesting thing too. I think how it will change people with disabilities transportation, because a lot of times I know that's difficult. I have a disabled sister myself, so taking her places is a lot more difficult when it has to be someone driving her there, and it's very expensive sometimes to have that happen. And I think self-driving cars, it's another interesting thing. I wanted to mention that comment. I think that'll change a lot of things for the better.
Yeah, no, more freedom for many people who right now is having a tougher time, obviously. And I know Cherie also super chatted. I will get back to it. So here's a follow up I was talking about. Let's see. Oh man, the chat is scrolling so freaking fast for my. Oh, here it is. He basically said, "Okay, my bad. Little bubble is deflated." I gotta tell you, a Tesla bubble is nice. I was in a Tesla bubble, and it was really. It's kind of rough outside of the Tesla bubble, but yeah, it's. I've noticed, and okay, this will be my last question for you. So, you know, like with everything, I think in this country, in the world now, even in this niche of electric cars, where we're all supposed to be like tree huggers, we still have them and us. Tesla owners and non-Tesla owner traders, haters, right? And I think because of that, a lot of times when I meet Tesla owners, even though they're not like haters and they're not even huge fans, but because you're in a sort of environment where all you know is Tesla, right? You don't really need to look outside Tesla chargers, Tesla robots, Tesla cars, Tesla self-driving software, and stuff like that. And then you tell them something like, they're like, oh, I will never buy a non-Tesla because there is no charging infrastructure for that. I was like, there is, and it's actually pretty good. And with a lot of, or the other electric cars don't go over 200 or 300 miles. Well, yeah, they do. You cover tech. Do you feel like there's a good sort of a parallel we can draw from Tesla universe and Tesla owners and Apple community and Apple owners where you talk to an iPhone owner, they don't know what's happening outside. They don't know anything about Samsung or Google or whatever. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, I think a lot of even the people I work with for Tech Balloon are very, very into that, and it's totally a parallel between Apple and Tesla because they're these big brand icons that people can latch onto and say they're the best in the world, or they do this the best, and they may be the most popular in the world. But I think it really gets mixed up when that comes to saying they're the best in the world. I don't think it's necessarily true, and I think a lot of people get wrapped up in that because I myself know it's very, very easy. I got switched over to iPhone because I got wrapped up in that, and I don't regret it. But I think it's an easy thing to get wrapped up into, and it's a hard thing to get out of because they think Tesla is the best or they think Apple is the best, and in a lot of ways they are, but they're not the biggest innovators in the market in every sector.
Yeah, it's somebody says the cow says, "Careful, Alex. As soon as you slightly criticize Tesla, those fanboys will be all over you." So first of all, they're all over me all the time because I do criticize Tesla, but also I wear it as a badge of honor because I pride myself on being unbiased, even though people accuse me of being biased anyway. But it's important to point it out. There are plenty of people out there on YouTube who will praise Tesla and Elon Musk at all times, right? But I think that's why this channel is different. But here's another interesting comment. It says Dieter Volk says, "I love my Volvo bubble. It's so safe." Touche. Touche. Well, anyway, listen, thanks for coming on. I really appreciate it. I hope to have you on again. Everyone, go and check out Tech Balloon on Instagram. Definitely interesting comment. Any closing thoughts on this? And I'm sure we'll chat again soon. But any closing thoughts on this Drive Electric week?
Well, I'm excited to see what events had happened, and I'm going to go through the chat. Some people have mentioned a couple events here in Texas, so I'll try to make it to some, just see what's going on, and it'll be interesting to see what type of people are at the events. Older, younger, all that kind of stuff, and it's always very interesting to see. But thanks for having me on, and thank you guys for all the comments. It was really fun to be on today.
Yeah, man, it's fun. This is the first time I even see you in person because we always like a voice chat or whatever text. So it's good to see you for the first time. Enjoy. I hope you have a good experience at one of those events, and definitely report back. I'm quite curious about your observations at the event, and have a great the rest of your Monday.
Thanks, you too, Alex. I'll see you.
All right. All right, guys. That was fun. I actually wanted to have him on for a while, so this was definitely a treat. I mean, one thing I think what I've learned as now that I'm getting into the old far territory, I think I'm actually here. I think I actually have a permanent residence here, but I've noticed with my assistant is also in his early 20s. And when I also had my hair salon, as you guys recently found out, most of my stylists were very young. It is important to listen to young people because first of all, they're the ones who are going to be driving the future and they're going to be in charge in another 10 or 20 years. But also I noticed, as we wrapped up into our daily lives and we kind of, just kind of set in our ways, obviously we don't always even put an effort into finding out what's new, and a lot of times we're still already in our box that we've created for ourselves over decades. But the young people are not that way. I know because I was one, at some point, believe it or not. And I love the fact that they are looking at different possibilities and thinking outside of the box, and essentially the future may just come from them. A lot of times it's my assistant that goes like, "Alex, hey, you should check out this story." And I'm like, wow, I didn't even see it in my universe, right? Because I check the press releases and I check all of the electric car publications, and I have a Google News feed that's very much customized for me and my interest in electric cars. And all of that still was missed because he lives in a bit of a different universe, really probably bigger universe. And some of the stories that he points out, are very valuable. So, and that's why I also wanted to have Hudson on as well, and that was a treat. So somebody said, "Good guest," and I agree. Now, let me get back to a super chat, which I missed because it kind of didn't have much to do with our conversation. But Cherie, thank you so much for a $5 super chat. I'll combine it with someone else's super chat earlier. Let's see. It was who was his first? Oh yeah, Master Mason 32. That was the first super chat. Um, all E minivan all electric minivan or similar. X too much. The Model X, I'm assuming, have a Y on order, too small. Have Canoe pre-order, but when and how it will be, I don't have an answer to that. Um, we're talking about Volkswagen Bus. I would love to have that as well, but when, what, soon? All right. So you're looking for an all electric minivan. You're not gonna find one right now. I think it's kind of a last thing on a to-do list of every manufacturer, right? Like right now, everyone's trying to get into electric trucks. Um, so you might have to wait a little bit longer. Now, I know the was a plug-in hybrid that Waymo uses, the Chrysler. It escapes me. You guys know what I'm talking about. So that one is actually a pretty decent plug-in hybrid. You can't get too far on just electric, and I'm not really sure if it does even have an all electric mode. I'm trying to remember. I test drove it for about a week. I had a media car, but I don't remember. But now Mercedes does have a minivan EQV, I believe, that they've unveiled a couple of years ago, and I think it's going on sale, but it's obviously just in Europe. So if I don't know where you are, where you at, but and then it's a Mercedes, so it's gonna cost. So unfortunately, I don't really have a good answer for you. A minivan, it's you know what? Maybe a conversion, maybe just literally pay money for a conversion of a minivan with, I don't know, like Tesla powertrain and battery. That might just cost as much as a Model X. So yeah, it's tough, but it's I don't know. Yeah, Chrysler Pacifica, says Adrian. I don't know why that escaped my mind. Now Xpong Fangirl says Rivian has the vans. They're delivery vans, and I don't think that we can buy them. But that's kind of an interesting question. You know what? I'm going to ask Rivian this. Can I, Alex, buy a delivery van? But I bet I can't, because it was created with the help and cooperation with Amazon, one of their bigger investors. So I'm assuming that's just an exclusive model. You can't just go and buy it. I actually would love to have one. Interesting comment. Cherie says she's in Los Angeles. So yeah, sorry. I'm flying out to Los Angeles in less than 24 hours. I already checked into my Southwest flight. Always great to visit Los Angeles, but it's always like when you visit Los Angeles, now that the traffic is back, I'm assuming, right? Traffic is back everywhere. You kind of can only be stuck with one particular area. If you're in, Huffington Beach, or, but I don't know what's going on with my brain today. By the way, I don't even drink or do drugs, but sometimes my brain just stops. But like, for example, I'll be staying at one of the just LAX hotels, so that will be my playground. Moving around LA, it's always tough. She says, I don't know if it's her or him. Sorry. Very, very unisex name. Yep, lots of traffic. Yeah, I've noticed. I go to Oakland almost every weekend now when I'm here in Sacramento. And now that my hockey games have restarted in Vacaville, which is about 30 miles away, it's traffic every time. This weekend I went there, and then I also went to Napa. So it was 4 trips, and every time there was traffic. No reason at all. I mean, sometimes accidents, but now it's just traffic. And I never thought I would say it, but I missed COVID days when it was like planes were empty, travel was easy, no traffic, no lines anywhere. So yeah, let's see. I'm just gonna hide this, and I'm going to try to catch up to some of the comments. But by the way, I'm wondering how you guys are looking. I'm just thinking about taping my video after this one, so I might as well pick your brains. What are your thoughts on the Chevy Bolt, in terms of, do you think that what happened with Chevy Bolt and how GM handled it has changed your perspective on GM, in terms of if you've ever considered buying a Chevy Bolt or a Hummer EV or whatever else comes from Chevy GM, and their cooperation with LG Chem, which essentially was the problem. Does it change your mind and saying, you know what, I think I'm going to stay away from GM, because not only they screwed up, they didn't admit it right away, and when they did, they didn't have a solution, and now that they do, it's kind of too late, and you already treated your customers quite poorly for an entire year. So let me know what you guys think about that. Let's see. Okay, some jokes. I like that. Jim says Chevy Bolt, a new meaning to hot hatch. Yeah, and there was only, I don't want to say only, but a dozen of fires or whatever, 15 fires. That's a lot. But I don't know why my lips are so chapped. Sorry, guys. But it's a lot for 140,000 cars that are out there. That feels so much better. Oh, there's a Chevy Bolt owner. Brad says, I do drive a 2017 Bolt, but will stay away when I do sell it. Have you tried selling it? So here's a question, Brad, and anybody else who owns or drives a Bolt right now. Are you sticking around? I mean, you're gonna continue you're gonna continue driving it, or are you going to sell it? If you try selling it, anybody wants to buy those? Like, I'm just kind of curious. I mean, at the end of the day, 12 fires out of 140 160,000 that they sold, it depends how you look at it, right? For just generally compared to how many other cars catch on fire for no reason, that's a lot. But your chances of it catching on fire is 16 out of 160,000, so very, very small. So let me know if you're gonna hold on to it or not. Actually, there's an answer. Brett says, I have not tried selling it yet. Okay. Here's a comment from MFH Berg. That poisoned the Chevy EV name for a while. Ford will catch up and pass. I feel like Ford has already passed them because, I mean, Mustang Mach-E is a huge success. Everybody loves Ford F-150 Lightning that they're just about to start selling really next year, right? And what else? Hummer EV. I know there will be a media drive. Once again, I'm not invited for some reason, but I already checked out Hummer EV in person when they had like an early prototype, twice actually. And that's $100,000+ car, and we don't know how many of them they're making because they sold out so quickly, like in 10 minutes. People like me questioned, like, oh, are they making only like 500 of them, or 100, or 1,500? And somebody at GM not officially told me, no, we're actually making like 10,000 of them. We'll sell them by the end of the year. And I was like, whoa, that's a weird number not to share with us. But I obviously Hummer. I love the fact that Hummer is now going to be electric, but I don't think it's going to add that much credibility to GM in general. So here's the Cisco Kid asks, any feedback on the Lyric by Cadillac? So I love the way it looks. I like the way it is inside. I saw an early prototype. I did not get a hold of the Lyric yet, and it's priced very well. They also said that it sold out in like 12 minutes or whatever. But how many you guys let people reserve? So that's a big question, right? So great car, love the look. But I just don't get a feeling that GM is still behind all of this. I know they put out the Super Bowl commercial, but when I reached out to them, and this is one of the things I'm going to say in my video that I'm creating for Thursday, is that when I reached out to Bolt, because I literally saw the new generation Bolt on the street, and I was like, oh, you guys are already selling these? I didn't realize it because I didn't really see any commercials, or like with e-tron and with ID4 and Mustang Mach-E, whenever they started selling them, and you saw them everywhere, television, billboards, on airports, everywhere. Their website is full of it, right? With GM, you wouldn't even know they are selling the new generation Bolt. I didn't know, and that's my job to know. And so when I reached out, they have this one guy who's like the PR person for Bolt, and his answer was quite cocky. He was basically like, wow, we don't need to advertise. They're selling it better than, we're selling it better than we ever have before. And, I'm thinking to myself, like, I'm not going to argue with him. I don't know why he's like being all combative about it, but it's my job to ask tough questions. But my thoughts are like, well, if you're beating your crappy sales by a little bit more, even if you're doubling the crappy sales, that's still crappy sales. I mean, you had the Bolt since 2016. At that time, if you remember, GM was the only brand that was selling electric cars with over 200-mile range besides Tesla. So that had that window of opportunity. Now they ended up making them I don't want to say ugly, but not exactly attractive to, just kind of look like a compliance car. It still does, actually. I feel like the refresh was not that great. It's almost like a Prius designer decided to redesign Bolt, and there, that's what we have now. So they had an opportunity. They weren't advertising it, and they're not advertising it now. So I just feel like they've they dropped the ball, and now it might just even damage their reputation. I think it already has. All right, let me grab a super chat once again. Thank you so much. Oh, it's from Cherie again. She asks thoughts on Canoe. Um, Interesting brand. I know they're public now, so they have some money. Every time I try to work with them, I don't want to make it sound like it's sort of my personal agenda, but whenever I try to work with a brand and they're really standoffish, or they kind of like, we don't want to talk. Um, I always ask, why don't you want to talk to not me, but a journalist, right? Obviously I'm a friendly media, so if you don't talk to me, who else would you be talking to promote this? So I always ask questions like, what are they hiding? Are they not ready? Are they afraid that I'm going to ask questions that and expose something that they don't want to be exposed? Um, I, my stand on it is always the same. I welcome any brand that's going to come in, especially a startup, and bring another perspective, bring another product to the table, make the legacy manufacturers like GM move a little bit faster, think a little bit, outside of the box, and create better products. And Canoe has done that, because I love the subscription model in general. Fisker's going to have it. Volvo has that option as well, and Canoe is going for it as well. I love it. I love it. I love it because I lease my cars, and I love bundling, and it's always a good deal when you bundle, and just not as much hassle. You deal with one brand, so I like the concept. Do I look the look of this car? It's interesting. It's not sexy. It's interesting. I know they also kind of put out the pickup truck, but then they made that video. None of us got to see it in the media, and then they haven't talked about it since. So to me, once again, it was kind of weird PR stunt that was kind of half-assed by them, and then nothing. But again, I really wish them luck, and I really want to see that on the road. They are making progress. Obviously, they're working on it. I see sometimes press releases being put out. Nothing that I wanted to talk about lately, but again, it's a new brand. It's a new brand that hasn't been very open about how they do and how they do. Like, think about Rivian, right? Rivian has always kept us in the loop. They put out videos of them testing. They put out videos of their families getting together and having campfires around the truck. RJ Scarinch, their CEO, is always around, always interacting with his employees and with potential clients and customers and all of that stuff. Like, it is almost like a reality show, if you follow them on social media. And like, I feel like when you buy them from Rivian, you kind of know them. They're kind of a family. Canoe, I don't know them as a journalist. You probably don't know them very well, because not too many journalists got to see their product, and they're not really producing that much social media content for us to get to know them even that way. So I'm just saying, I don't know. But I hope they succeed. Obviously, an interesting concept. And again, thank you for the super chat that goes towards my Chipotle, which I am really kind of can really use a Chipotle bowl right now. David Lutz asks, anybody have reservations for the Aptera? Aptera is not for me, honestly, but I think those people who are in the market for three-wheeled vehicles in general, that is an amazingly awesome choice. And as you guys know, Sandy Munro is involved with Aptera, so technologically, it's going to be good. If you're really going to get 1,000 miles of it, that's pretty cool. But it is not technically a car. It's not a car. Yes, Aptera is a three-wheeler, asks Xpong Fangirl. You guys talking about hydrogen? Not really sure if I wanna go down that rabbit hole. Let's see. Did you see what Volkswagen did to the new microbus? by the 60s we will get a full retro micros like Canu did. Okay, so I just talked to their CEO of Volkswagen Group of America when I was at Chattanooga a couple of weeks ago, and they're excited about the bus. And I know we're seeing some spy shots of testing because they're testing technology right now. They know they need to make it as good as their second generation Volkswagen Bug, right? They know what we want, and we want pretty much what we saw in those videos, in those early prototype designs. They know it. Now, obviously, it's not under his control fully what's going to happen to it, but I know Volkswagen is very excited about it, and I think they should be. And I am like, I will be a reservation holder right away. I want one of those things. And no, I've never been a Volkswagen fan, by the way, especially with Dieselgate and all of that stuff. I still am not. I love my ID4, but I'm not a fan of Volkswagen. I'm a fan of Volkswagen ID4. So this is not a brand thing for me, by the way, but they're one of the sponsors. I should probably disclose that for those of you who have not watched my channel long enough. ID4 is one of the sponsors. Well, Volkswagen really is. Let's see. I'm just trying to catch up with some of the chat. Now that I'm using the software, there's a way too many windows open here and there. But if there are any more, oh, here it is. Here's another interesting comment from Brian. Wonder what the outcome of Nitsa. I guess I just learned how to pronounce it because I watched one of their YouTube videos. I was looking for their logo, and they pronounce it Nitsa. So, wonder what the outcome is of Nitsa asking LG Chem directly what other vehicle brands they should be worried about. No, I didn't even know if they asked them, but that's a good damn question. And from what I understand, whenever LG Chem or any type of battery cell supplier designing batteries for or selling batteries to a manufacturer, it is always almost a kind of a partnership like Tesla has with Panasonic, right? There's certain chemistry tweaks that they do and a certain production facilities that they use. I don't think like LG Chem just produces the same battery for everybody. I think there are changes, and again, this is something that we may not even never know because that's usually a lot of times is done in secrecy because they don't want others to know that they've changed the recipe a little bit. And in this case, it came down to manufacturing. There were two defects in those batteries, believe it or not just one. And they found out what it was. And they knew for like 2 or 3 months, but they couldn't figure out how it actually happens. They couldn't figure out what happens during their manufacturing process that actually creates those two defects. Now, a few days ago, they said they finally figured it out, and LG Chem is going to be supplying the batteries again for the recall, and they've already started the production of the Bolt EV again and EUV. But it's a good question because Hyundai had a huge recall also with LG Chem batteries. I think there were different types, but still, I shouldn't say different type. The same type, but still created specifically for Hyundai. But we should worry about it. People ask me like, well, are you worried about your Volt? Because technically that one should have the same batteries, but I'm assuming that GM was smart enough to look into that. And from what I'm gathering is those batteries are very different. And there haven't been any instances of Volts catching on fire. So that's good because I love my Volt. You guys are talking to yourselves, which is actually pretty good. But guys, when you address a question to me, can you say at E4Electric or just like say Alex, so that way I know you're asking a question? Because I'm ending up. I love the fact that you're having a conversation in a chat room on your own, but I'm just trying to get some of the questions so I can answer them pretty quickly. But on the other hand, I will answer probably a couple of more. By the way, once again, quick shout out to my guest, Hudson, who is the creator of Tech Balloon. And you can find it on Instagram. He's got over 100,000 followers on Instagram. Definitely knows his game there. 19 years old. Oh, no, he's 18 years old, going on 19. Very, very interesting perspective. It was great having him on. So thank you for taking your time, Hudson. And I'm sure we'll do it again. I wanted to check out a little bit earlier today because I do have a couple doctor appointments, I have a date, and I have a soccer game. And between all of that, I need to make 2 videos. So you guys have a video on Thursday, and I'm finishing another video with Sandy Monroe, which is going to be about robots, specifically the Tesla robot. I just had to have that conversation with him. So um, here's a good question from 10M Elvis. Oh, welcome back. I saw you last time here. Alex, any issues with your ID4? So I have a video out where I outline all of the issues. One of my first issues, which was it actually broke down in the middle of a road as I had Eli Burton, a Tesla YouTuber, test driving it. So embarrassing twice. And I guess a coolant pump went out there, which was kind of like I was kind of thinking it was software, but it was a hardware. Got it replaced. Good customer service overall. Obviously, I knew I was going to be a guinea pig by getting a car that's like one of the few first to 2000 made. So not happy about it. Not happy about it at all. What the hell? How we? Yeah. But I'm never, so I have an ID4 owners group and I belong to another ID4 owners group, and I have never heard anybody having the same issue. So I'm assuming this was an isolated incident. That's why I don't talk about it as much. If it was a widespread problem, of course I would, but it sounds like it was just Alex's car problem. And but my biggest two problems, and I've just communicated this very harshly to Volkswagen. One is their app. It sucks. It's awful. Whoever's in charge of it should be fired. No excuses. Secondly, is that my phone, which I know I have an older phone, this is a Pixel 3, but Google still sells them refurbished, but still on their website. And apparently, this phone is something that they're not supporting and not planning on supporting. So that's kind of BS. But other than that, the software is definitely a little slow when you get into the car. It takes about like 2 minutes to boot everything up. But this is the time when you're setting everything up, punching the address in, and turning your air conditioning on and off and stuff like that. So that is the worst time to have the lag. From what I understand, the software update that they're rolling out through Europe and apparently coming here pretty soon will fix most of those software issues and being laggy and stuff like that. But those are the things that I'm not that happy about. Sherry asks, when for Volkswagen Bus? I don't know. I would say 2 years from now. That's when I think that's going to happen. Let's see. Chris Bates asks, Alex, what do you think of the Volvo X XC40, right? XC40 recharge, right? I don't think there's XX40. It's a great Volvo. It's a really great Volvo. My disappointment is maybe the price is a little too much, I think. But again, Volvo people do pay more for their cars, so I may not even be the right person to evaluate that price. But secondly, my biggest disappointment, my biggest disappointment with Volvo and Polestar, which is a sister brand, I mean, Volvo owns Polestar essentially, is the fact, I love the fact that they've gone with an Android operating system for cars, right? Android Automotive, I forget, OS, I think it's called. I was excited about it because, obviously Google has done this for a while. They know how to do an operating system. There's no reason to reinvent the wheel like all of the manufacturers are doing. So I like that, but I thought it would come with bunch and bunch of apps because Google has an Google has an app store, and there were like 20 apps. And it's been a while. They've announced this like 2 years ago. It's been a while, and there's still, the last time I checked it out was 2 months ago, and there's still like 20 apps in an app store. And how hard is it to port apps that are created for the vertical screen when Volvo and Polestar screens are vertical? By the way, I wish they also had bigger screens. That's another thing. But again, I'm not a Volvo enthusiast. But yeah, so that's the biggest thing. They need to be able to port all those apps. It should be easy, it should be fast, and yet they haven't done it. And to me, that would be something that would really put this car apart and above others, the apps. And I'm sure people will be designing more and more apps because they're not designing it just for Polestar or just for Volvo. It will be for all manufacturers are going to be using the Android Automotive OS, moving forward. So to me, that was a big miss, at least for now. Let's see. Oh, thank you for saying at E4 Electric, Rob. He asked, did you go to college? Field of study. Okay, I didn't know that I needed to bring my resume here, but I'll be more than happy to share. Yes, I went to San Jose State University. My major was radio, television, and film with the minor of communication studies. So I have a Bachelor of Art degree from San Jose State. I didn't at that time. I by the time I got my degree, I already had a profession of as a web developer and a software engineer in Silicon Valley. And honestly, it took me like 8 years of evening classes to finish because I was making six-digit salary. Already picked a essentially different career. Nobody ever asked me for a degree and a job interview, and so it was just I literally did it because my dad has two PhDs, my mom has a master's, and I was like, all right, I mean, might as well. So, and it's I mean, it's good to have college degree. I just never end up using it, but that's what I got. I mean, I'm glad I have it. Let's see. Very interesting question, but I don't mind at all answering something like that. Very cool. Let me answer one more. Oh, you guys are now speaking. Is this Korean? Yeah, I think you guys are speaking Korean in my chat room. Great. I can't even understand it. I don't think it's Chinese. I'm pretty sure it's Korean. All right. So we'll probably end on this one from Paul. It says, when there is a drive electric week, it tells me EVs aren't ready from prime time. That's a very interesting observation, Paul. Well, they're not ready for prime time, actually, now that I think about it, because I was just again, I was doing the speech for in Napa a couple of days ago, and once again, the biggest problem with adoption is the charging, at home charging, which is not really that possible right now if you live in an apartment complex, or if you're a renter, or even a townhome. If you don't have your own garage, essentially, where you can run, or have your landlord run a charging station plug, you know, unless you're one of the few people who don't mind going to supercharger or fast charger locations and spend 2-3 hours a week there, you're right. The pricing hasn't come down that much, right? The electric cars are definitely much more expensive, especially a lot of the manufacturers are starting with their luxury, more expensive models, which is understandable. But at the same time, you can still buy a pretty cheap electric car right now. Nissan Leaf with 151 EPA rated miles, 2022 model will, after incentives, will be under $20,000. But if you have a charger at home, see, I feel like we're just going to be separated into two groups here. If you have your own home, you are ready to go with electric cars in North America, or in Europe, and definitely in China. If you don't have your own home in the garage where you can run it, you are definitely the car. Not you are the cars. EVs aren't ready for your prime time. So I feel like it's a loaded question, a good one, Paul, for sure. But yeah, I think if you're in one category, you're ready. If you're another one, you're not ready at all. And we don't really have any laws passed. I think only London in Great Britain just passed a law saying that if you're building a new house, it needs to come with a charger. Was it charger or solar panels? I think the charger, and that's what we need. Because you go to Silicon Valley, down the street from me where I used to live, they build this multi-million apartment complexes that have all this kind of technology, but still don't have the dedicated electric car chargers, which is insane because, those people who drive electric cars in Silicon Valley, they're usually expensive Teslas or whatever. Don't you want to have a tenant that has an electric car, which means they're probably better off than a lot of other people who are applying to rent from you? So it makes no sense to me. And I think at some point the market and hopefully our local governments will require that. But overall, Paul, I think your statement is very fair, for sure. All right, Adrian says, there are two neighbors in my condo complex who have Teslas. They supercharge and charge at work. Yeah, if you have chargers at work, that's a solution. Two problems with it. One, you may have to change your jobs or end up having to work from home, right? We all experience that. And two, yeah. Two is the fact that sometimes there's not enough chargers there, right? They will install, let's say, 10 chargers for one office building, and there are 15 electric car owners, and that number usually grows. So then sometimes you come in, you're empty, and all of them are taken, and that's a problem. And if you want to go to the supercharger or Electrify America and sit there for 1 or 2 or 3 hours together in 1 week to keep your car running, I mean, I know some people do that, and kudos to them, props to them, absolutely. But Most people don't want to do that. I mean, most people don't want to go out of their way to adopt a new technology. I mean, that's just how people are. So that's a pretty good uh, observation. Tenem Elvis says my employer is planning to put solar panels in the parking lot and 40 chargers. Awesome. As long as you have 40 or less electric car owners, there will be no trouble, right? And sometimes, by the way, you even have to pay, even though it's at work. Like ChargePoint might actually charge you, even if it's at your job. I remember last time I was working at the campus in Milpitas, or it was like a border with Milpitas in San Jose, California, and there were a bunch of chargers, but they were all like really expensive to charge. It was like something crazy, like 25 cents, no, a dollar a minute, something crazy. I think it was dollar a minute even. So, but really, really good observation. I really appreciate it. All right, guys. I know I usually go a little bit longer, and it's always great to hang out with you guys. I do need to go film my videos, have a doctor appointment, have a soccer game, and a date. And with all of that, I still have to finish all of my stuff because I'm flying out to Los Angeles when I'll be just immersed into this 3-day awesome conference for YouTubers. I'll be learning more stuff, how to be a better creator, hanging out with other YouTubers, which always is a treat for me because I don't know anybody who's a YouTuber here in Sacramento. But it's always just good to hang out with like-minded people and people who can, help you out with being better at what you do. And then I still need to pack on top of that because, I don't know if you guys know, I go to bed around 4 a.m. I just like working at night. And plus, when I need to talk to brands in China or in Europe, it's a great time because it's their morning. But I wake up at 11 and my flight is at 10:40. So tomorrow I need to wake up very early for my schedule. So I go to bed at 4 a.m. I wake up around 11. So this will kick my butt. Um, okay, so one more comment. I'll do one more comment because I just must address this. Cherie says, that's the issue of any other car besides Tesla, finding charging and awkward signing in. Well, so I disagree with that. I mean, so I just did it twice in the last 3 days. I needed to charge. I used my Electrify America app, and also when I'm in Las Vegas, I have a Volt, and I use Android Auto there, and that app is now built in Android Auto. So very, very, very simple. And there's always 1 or 2 or 3 on my way. I honestly almost never worry. When I see my charge is like 20%, then I start worrying where there's an Electrify America station is, and where I'm at, there's always one around, and luckily they're very, very available. Not too many problems. I had a couple of problems, but definitely much more problem free now. And I don't know what do you mean by awkward signing in. What I do is I plug my car in, then you look for whatever number of the chargers, 1, 2, 3, and then you just swipe on that charger and it starts. So I mean, it's better when you just plug in. And I think that's how it's going to be with ID4 in the future. I think it's Mustang Mach-E is the only one. Oh, and Porsche Taycan. I think there are only 2 that are just doing plug and charge. But overall, I got to tell you, I've used Tesla supercharger network for years, since 2012 until I sold my last Tesla in 18? Yeah, or 19. So I definitely have a good point of reference, and I don't feel like it's hard to find or awkward to sign in, at least for my taste. So just to reply to that. But don't get me wrong, Electrify America can do much better. I mean, they really need to do much better, and can. And I know they're working on it, but nevertheless, I feel like there's always room for improvement, where Tesla's is almost flawless. Really, just as it's obviously easier because it's one brand creating charging stations for themselves and their own payment system. And, Electrify America has to deal with all kinds of payment systems and all kinds of accounts and all kinds of cars. And trust me, I've talked to them many times. It is much harder than we all think because they're dealing with different brands. So, all right, guys, thanks for hanging out with me once again. It's always fun. Next time, I don't even know. Next time it's probably going to be Monday, because on Tuesday I am test driving the Ford Mustang Mach-E GT. So I will probably keep it on Monday, but I literally just got an invitation to test drive the EQS, and that's on Monday, a day before that. So I'm gonna have to figure something out. There might be possibility that I either skip a week. I really don't want to skip a week, but I might just do it off of my phone in the middle of my whatever test drive, media drive that I'm doing, and just trying to do that way. I really like this setup because I like bringing somebody in and chatting with them, and then being able to see your chats and highlight on all of that stuff. But we might have to go back to basics next week. I'll let you guys know. But for now, I'm gonna. Oh, I didn't even know if I'm probably just gonna schedule a little money. Now I'm just thinking out loud. But I want to say thank you to all of you for participating. For those people who super chatted at me, thank you so much. You guys know I do this full time, so super chats is essentially contributes to me, buying groceries and paying my mortgage. So I really appreciate it. And once again, I am. Don't forget, I have a Thursday video coming out. Most likely, it's going to be about Chevy Bolt and how it affects GM, and what GM I think should do to get out of that funk. And funk is, I'm really using that. I'm being generous to them. And then on Sunday, of course, another news video, and after that, Sandy Monroe on robots. After that, Rich Rebuilds talking about. God, I forgot what the topic was, but we had another video. And by the way, I'm going to hang out with him at SEMA in Las Vegas for that conference, if it doesn't get canceled, because NAB just got canceled. All right. Thank you once again. I'm going to run, get myself some Chipotle, see my chiropractor, and then off I go making more videos. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Have a great the rest of your day, and I will see you next week right here live. And of course, as always, remember to stay charged.